Welcome back here on Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690. We have come down to the TV studios as we do on a weekly basis nowadays here at CBS 47 and Fox 30. And on the wall that says it all, it's just 3 downs. And what we're going to do, since we didn't have a game to dissect from last week in the bye week, we're going to talk about the big picture, the number one problem the Jaguars have on offense after 9 games, red zone efficiency. We've talked it to death here on Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690, but now let's show you a little bit about it. And as we always say, and I like to say, you can find this on our social media platforms where we're getting close to hitting 1 million views.
Yes, we are.
YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch. If you're listening in your car, follow along. We'll try to make it understandable for you and paint the picture, if you will. We're going to start with the last game in London, 9-0. Texans in the lead over the Jaguars. 2 minutes to go in the second quarter. They eventually get a field goal out of this, makes it 9-3. There's a 3rd and 6 play. What goes wrong?
So it's funny because we always talk about their formation, and I feel like I say it on a weekly basis now. They're in a 2-by-2 kind of bunch formation. This is kind of the in formation right now of the NFL, Brent. And before we kind of break these things down, we have to understand the Jaguars do a pretty good job of moving the ball, you know. But when they get down to the red zone, they're starting to falter a little bit. And the reason, well, there's a couple reasons why, but number one is you can't usually run your same plays that you do getting to the red zone as when you're in the red zone.
Playbook shrinks.
Yeah, exactly, because for the most part, everything's condensed, right?
The field shrinks.
The field shrinks and everything, so the defense can adjust from that. So kind of keep that in mind a little bit as we're breaking down some of these plays here. So the first play we got, it's a 2-by-2 formation, and basically, it's going to be a pass. And the cool thing with the red zone is the fact that if you have a scrambling quarterback, if you have a dual threat quarterback, that keeps the defense on their toes a little more, right? Because now he can scramble, he can get the first down, he can get in the end zone. And if you're a defensive lineman, you have to change your entire rush in the red zone if you're going against a dual threat quarterback. If you're a defensive lineman, usually you can work a pass rush move, you can work a game. In the red zone, if you're going against a dual threat quarterback, it's more of the bull rushing. It's more about keeping the guy in the pocket and making him uncomfortable. Because you can't make the mistake.
Speaking of uncomfortable, I'm a little uncomfortable when you tell me, though, Gardner Minshew is a dual threat quarterback.
Now, he's not a dual threat quarterback, but here's the thing, Brent. He can beat you with his legs. We've seen that a couple of times. And when I say beat you with his legs, no, the guy is not like he's not like Russell Wilson where he could take off for 40, 50 yards, even though we've seen it a couple of times from Minshew. But he has the ability to beat you with his legs and the fact that he can keep the play alive. So defenses have to take note of that. So what happens here?
Well, ball's on the 12-yard line, shotgun formation. You just said bunch formation, 3rd and 6, late in the first half in London. And what happens?
So basically what happens here is they flush him out of the pocket, right? So as far as the pass rushing is concerned, they have one guy that's trying to hit home, basically. Gardner Minshew feels the pressure. Now, if he's more of a savvy vet, maybe he stays in the pocket maybe a second longer and sees that he has Leonard Fournette wide open here in the flat. Maybe if he's a little more savvy, he can see that. But let's be honest, if he's a first-year guy, he's starting to feel the pressure on the backside, so he gets out. So he scrambles out.
And at this stage, at least, that we're showing you, Leonard Fournette has snuck out of the backfield. But it's not a direct pass to him. There's a lot going on in Minshew's mind. Now, what happened the frame before, the frame after, all those things? I mean, everything happens in a split second. But Fournette is available. And by the way, Fournette's back now at like the 17-yard line.
Exactly.
If he spits it out to Fournette, Fournette's probably not getting the first down anyway.
Probably not. But at the same time, you have man coverage right here. And if you get the ball to Fournette, maybe he makes one guy miss, and who knows what happens.
But this slide is where some missed opportunities
This is the missed opportunity right here. As you can see, we have the tight end who's circling across, running that out route is pretty much wide open at this point.
And that's down near the 6-yard line. That would be at the first down marker.
Yeah, well, it could be the 6-yard line for a first down or even a touchdown.
It's probably a touchdown, but at least a first down.
If Minshew can lead him. But the problem is he feels a little more pressure. He's on the run. And sometimes when you're on the run, you obviously can't see the full picture, right? You're just trying to you're trying to avoid getting hit and getting your head taken off, which has happened to him before, especially in Baltimore's first preseason game. So here we have the opportunity where he's scrambling, he's trying to keep the play alive, but he's not looking at all his keys. And, not all quarterbacks can do that. I think the benefit with Foles going forward now, is Foles going to be this mobile? Probably not. But the fact is, Foles going to have his eyes up the whole time, see the bigger picture, and that's where you can really benefit in the red zone.
The interesting thing about it, again, I know you're listening on radio and some people just have the audio of this, but Gardner Minshew now, the line of scrimmage was the 12-yard line. He's now back at the 23, and he's rolling to his right, and his eyes, at least in this frame, look way over to the left, it appears, like across the field. But meanwhile, he's got 2 receivers on this quadrant of the field, and one of them is the tight end that appears to be open if he leads them with a good pass. And then the other one is, this is Fournette, who has now worked his way out of the backfield downfield, and give credit to Fournette because he's now working his way up the field, and it looks like he could hit Fournette as well.
So the thing about this play, too, keep in mind, Brent, is that, yes, he is getting flushed out of the pocket, but he's getting flushed out with the grain. Sometimes you say against the grain or it's with the grain. This is where he wants to run. This is where he wants to throw the ball because it's to his strong side. It's when he's going against the grain where you kind of like, a lot of quarterbacks can't make that pass, maybe just throw it away. But right here, he's going with the grain, and he has the ability to, like you said, either hit the tight end over here or hit Fournette for probably, a 10-yard gain or so.
And listen, I think you got to say this. This is not all on Gardner Minshew, right, in terms of the red zone inefficiencies.
No, it falls on
everybody. His
everybody.
numbers have been pretty good.
Yeah.
But on this play right here, Minshew has a couple plays that he could have made, it looks like.
And then let's be honest, if you're talking about this Houston game in London, it's probably his worst game overall this season.
That's a good point. All right, let's move on. We're going to be here all day.
Yeah.
And we could. I like the wall that says it all, but we got to hurry a little bit.
Yeah.
Now we go to the Bengals game, and this is one where people say, there's the old adage, right? It's like, if you can't gain a yard, you're probably not going to win.
Correct.
Well, this is the first drive of the Cincy game. They looked like they were playing a JV team. Yeah. They looked like Lamar Jackson against Cincinnati.
Sure.
In that first drive of the game, if you go back and remember. But then they get to the 1-yard line, and they can't get the football in. They go for it on 4th down, and they can't get a yard.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. It's not. See, that's why it's not just a Minshew problem. It's the offensive line. It's Leonard Fournette. They are averaging, I want to say it's like 1.8 yards a carry inside the red zone. That ain't getting it done.
Correct. So now, if we rewind back to this play right here, we see Leonard Fournette. He actually started in his traditional set about 5 to 6 yards behind the quarterback.
Yeah.
He actually motions up to almost like a pistol kind of look.
Yeah.
And now he's about 4 yards behind the quarterback.
It was odd.
So now, let's be honest. Now, take the offensive line and the blocking out of it. If you look at Leonard Fournette right now, what do you think he's going to do?
Well, Leonard Fournette is like in a track position, essentially, in a 3-point stance, I guess, from the NFL, but it really looks like a track position, and he's literally 2.5 yards behind Minshew.
Exactly.
I think everybody remembers this play if you watch that game, and it's like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
Like, you can't even get momentum going.
Well, so here's the theory behind it. This is almost like a fullback dive, what they do sometimes.
That's what it felt like,
where the handoff gets handed off quicker, right?
Yep.
Where everything happens a little faster. And with Leonard Fournette, if you're coming downhill north to south, that's not a bad call because as soon as he gets the ball, he's going to lower his shoulder, and hopefully you can get a yard. But here's what the Jacksonville Jaguars kind of underestimated a little bit. The fact that they have, Brent, all of their receivers, all their offensive linemen bunched in together.
Yes.
So when you have everybody bunched in together like that, it doesn't leave a lot of room for error. Because if you're a defensive lineman, if you're an all-pro named Geno Atkins, you know dang well it's going to be a run play. And especially when Leonard Fournette motions in the kind of like this pistol look, you know it's going to be a run play. Because if it was going to be a pass play, they wouldn't motion him up here like that because then the timing gets all thrown off, right? Yeah. So keep that in mind. So now
that's a good key.
Exactly. So now as we go forward here, and I don't know if the linebacker saw Fournette motion up a little bit closer to the pistol, but it is a key. So now they hand the ball off and everything. But guess what? It's too clogged up. And this is all about push right now because
it's just mano-a-mano right here.
This shows you what kind of offensive line you do have because the defensive line knows the run's coming. There is no risk for a pass whatsoever. Sometimes when you run these formations and Fournette's maybe back a little more, okay, maybe it could be a tight end, boot, something like that. Not the case here. We know it's going to be a run. And like you said, Brent, mano-a-mano. Geno Atkins, one of the best 3 techniques in the game right now, gets a great push, and the Cincinnati Bengals get off the field on 4th and goal.
Yeah, he blew the play up, but also, think about the numbers game of this. You really, with the 3 linebackers back there, or I don't even know if they're linebackers, actually might be strong safety in it, but with all those, you basically have 11 against 9 at the very least.
Correct.
So it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And it's hard to win.
Yeah.
So I think a little bit of this, you have to be able to push a yard if you're an offensive line, and Leonard's running downhill most of the time anyway. He'll help you get the other half a yard if you need. You get half, he gets half, right?
Yeah.
But a little of this is numbers game stuff. Not a lot of imagination here.
Yeah.
We just said, we think we're better than you, and we weren't.
Exactly, and that's all you can do. When you're this close to the goal line, Brent, you can't really do a lot of traps. You can't run a lot of, crazy pulling stuff just because that needs time to develop. And when we're down here on the 1-yard line, it's mano-a-mano. You don't have time to, kind of bait the defense and do something crazy. So from that perspective, it was mano-a-mano. Unfortunately, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they don't do well here.
Jags pull away in this game. But if the Jags score this touchdown, they probably win this game 38-10.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it felt.
Yeah.
If they had scored this touchdown right here to open the game, they'd blow them out.
But also keep in mind, though, on this exact same drive here, I think it was either first or second down, Gardner Minshew almost threw a pick six as well.
He did, actually, that ball that flipped. You're right. Good point. And that would have been a mistake. That's two mistakes in the red zone.
And that would have been a huge mistake.
We're only showing one.
Exactly.
All right, let's go to the last play before we got to get out of here.
Absolutely.
And this is going all the way back to the infamous two-point conversion, which right now looms large in this season.
Absolutely.
It really does. I mean, we can't understate that.
Yeah.
It's a gutsy decision. We all believe it wasn't a great play call. Now everybody will remind me it was an RPO, so it was a read pass option. I don't care what it was. It was a run play that didn't work, and it cost you the football game, so it didn't work.
Exactly.
But why didn't it work?
So, yeah, exactly. So like you said, Brent, this is a run pass option. And I'm not sure if it was Gardner Minshew's call or if it was John DeFilippo's call, but somebody said we're going to run the ball, okay? Because you know how the RPO works.
It's usually the quarterback's call.
It's usually the quarterback, but what LA did so great last year is the fact that Sean McVay, they get to the line as fast as possible. When he gets to the line as fast as possible, McVay has about 3 or 4 seconds to say, you know what, run, pass. So he's actually kind of calling what he wants Jared Goff to do. Now here, I assume this is Gardner Minshew's call because it's a 2-point conversion. They weren't rushing to the line. So all things considered, this is probably Minshew's call right now. And I understand. We're kind of in another, once again, kind of a bunch formation.
But they actually split some guys out on this one.
Well, we got one guy split out here, but there's still here's my philosophy.
And there's Conley, I think.
But here's my philosophy, and here's where teams have success in the red zone a little more. We have a guy in the slot that I think is kind of closer to the line than he is split away, right?
Fair enough.
I think if you have the Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiving core, they can all beat you one-on-one, right? And if you go back to this formation, how they're set up, they had what they wanted. They had one-on-one coverage.
They did.
So from this kind of formation, you want to see picks. You want to see the screens because that's so big in the NFL. Now,
absolutely.
Granted, sometimes
it's easy money.
Sometimes that can get called, but to ask a corner to play one-on-one on somebody is hard enough already.
So what? You run a pick. By the way, you run a pick play here. It gets called, and then you go kick the extra point. Go to overtime.
Exactly. Yep. And you kind of saw this was really like a rub play coming over here. But obviously they're on the ball, so it doesn't really matter. But my point going forward now for the Jacksonville Jaguars is to get these spread formations kind of like this and run these rub plays, run these pick plays, put the defensive backs in bad positions because you have the receivers to do it. Chris Conley, D.D. Westbrook, DJ Chark, they're all capable of being red zone targets. And also, don't forget, a lot of teams have success too in the red zone with the receiving running back. And Leonard Fournette can be that guy. Now, is he the most shifty guy? Probably not. But if you can get Leonard Fournette in some routes too as well, kind of like the Patriots love to do with James White, I feel like they can have some success there as well.
I still think to sum this up, this also, by the way, this illustration, to kind of tell you if you're not watching it, this is a little bit of a tell on the offensive line again. Now, this is week 2 offensive line where they were not as good.
Correct.
They have been getting better and better. Yeah. But look at, this ball started at the 2, man. Look where Leonard Fournette's got the ball now at the 4.5-yard line.
Yeah.
And the offensive line is being driven back. So they are not winning in the trenches on this play, and that does not help. This is a great individual effort by Leonard Fournette to make it even close. And remember, you're kind of not even sure if he did get in or not, but reviews show that he didn't. It's a great individual effort. These guys got to do a better job up there.
Well, and you know what? And take the X's and O's out of it real quick. I want to show you 2 things that you can tell where the offensive line was struggling a little bit. And I want to go back to the second board if we can real quick.
Real quick,
back to the second board. Where's this offensive lineman's back right now? No, being serious, where's his back?
He is actually turned toward the other end of the field, not the end zone.
Correct.
Like the back is toward the end zone.
Correct. That's reason number 1. Where's this offensive line's back right now?
That's Andrew Norwell, and he is back toward the end zone.
Exactly.
Which means he's getting spun around.
You're getting spun around. If you're 2 yards or 1 yard away from the end zone, and you're spinning backwards and your back's to the end zone, you're not a good sign. You're going to lose that battle 10 times out of 10.
All right. That's going to do it for the wall that says it all here down in CBS 47 and Fox 30. So much more to come on Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690. Good illustration of the red zone with Austen Lane. One other note, by the way, how many pairs of Vans do you have? Those are red on the wall that says it all.
I got about a baker's dozen, Brent. I got about a baker's dozen.
See, show them. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. These things are pretty dirty, though.
Join us on ESPN 690, the radio side, in just a bit.